In this module, we're going to have a look at what I call the have past in Spanish. Now, we use the word have to talk about the past a lot in English. For example, I have bought it, I have washed it, I have seen it, I have eaten it, I have done it, and so forth. And of course, these ones can always be reduced like with our apostrophe too. So we have I've bought it, I've washed it, and so forth. Now, we can do this same thing in Spanish as well. So let's go to a live demo and I'll show you how it works. Looking at our first example here, we have I have bought it. So let's go down a line and let's make this blue. So we have the verb comprar, to buy. Now what happens is this with AR verbs for bought, in the past, this becomes comprado, this ado ending. And notice that I changed again, just manipulating and playing around with this AR ending. So comprar would go to comprado, and this means bought in the past. And then the I have is very easy. It just becomes like this. So I have bought, just that would be comprado. Now the it comes all the way up front, up here. So it'll be lo he comprado. Literally, it I have bought. Let's look at another example. We have here, I have washed it. So again, the verb to wash is lavar, and this AR ending goes to ado, that sound, ado. So we have lavado would be washed. In the past now, washed. And again, the I have becomes he. So he lavado would be I have washed, and then the it comes all the way up front. So lo he lavado, I have washed it. In the third example, we have I have eaten it. Now the verb to eat is comer, as we know. We have an ER ending here now, so we have to change slightly. This goes to ido, the sound is ido, like this. So we have comido would be eaten, comido. And again, we have I have with he comido is I have eaten, and the it goes way up front. So lo he comido, I have eaten it. The next one is I have given it. The verb to give is dar. And again, this AR goes to ado, that sound. So you have dado would be given, dado. We have I have with and then the it way up front. So lo he dado is I have given it. Then in our final example for now, we have I've gone out. Notice here we shortened it to simply I've. So the verb to go out is salir. And we see here we have an IR verb. So it goes to the ido sound. So we have salido for gone out, salido. And then the I've or the I have is simply he. So we have he salido, I've gone out. Let's summarize what information we have so far. If we're dealing with an AR verb like comprar, then the sound goes to ado. We have this AR ending going to ado. So it would be comprado for bought. Let's choose another AR verb like caminar. So again, this AR changes to ado. And we get caminado, so that would mean walked. So those are for AR verbs. Now, if it is not an AR verb, for example, salir or comer, doesn't matter. It can be either an IR or an ER verb. Then the sound in both cases goes to ido. So we have, salido and comido. So you only have two key sounds to worry about. It's either going to go to ado or it's going to go to ido. ado and ido. Those are the two key sounds for the have past in Spanish. Then we have the I have part, which is simply he. So let's take our example here of comido. So he comido, I've eaten, or I have eaten. And if you want to throw the it somewhere, it comes up here. So those are kind of like the three parts. We have either an ado or ido sound. We have the e for I have, and the lo being placed right up front here. That's as much information as I would like you to take away from this video for now. Up next, I'd like to practice getting this ado or ido sound. For example, if we have the verb cenar, which means to dine or to have dinner, we have an AR verb. So that one goes to cenado. The AR gets replaced with this ado sound, cenado. But if it is not an AR verb like salir, to go out, we get this ido sound. So salir goes to salido. We have cenar, cenado, salir, salido. We have ado and ido, ado and ido. So this is what I want to drill now. What I'll do is just give you the verb, and then I want you to convert it into either that ado or ido sound. Hablar, hablado. Comer, comido. Bailar, bailado. Encontrar, encontrado. Tener, tenido. Ir, ido. Comprar, comprado. Dar, dado. Llamar, llamado. Llegar, llegado. Preparar, preparado. Tomar, tomado. Rentar, rentado. Besar, besado. Cantar, cantado. Fumar, fumado. Pagar, pagado. Recibir, recibido. Tapar, tapado. Tocar, tocado. Usar, usado. Vender, vendido. Sufrir, sufrido. Caminar, caminado. Cruzar, cruzado. Esperar, esperado. Ordenar, ordenado. Nadar, nadado. Terminar, terminado. Checar, checado. Aceptar, aceptado. Copiar, copiado. Reparar, reparado. Recomendar, recomendado. Notar, notado. Celebrar, celebrado. Visitar, visitado. Estudiar, estudiado. Comunicar, comunicado. confirmar, confirmado, explicar, explicado, trabajar, trabajado, preferir, preferido, pensar, pensado, venir, venido, prometer, prometido. In part 3, we're going to try to extend things out a little bit. First of all, what does cenar go to? Cenado. Now, how would you say I've dined? He cenado. I've dined with him. He cenado con él. I've dined with her. He cenado con ella. What does salir go to? Salido. How would you say I've gone out? He salido. I've gone out with them. He salido con ellos. I haven't gone out with them. No he salido con ellos. What does hablar go to? Hablado. How would you say I've spoken? He hablado. I have spoken with you. He hablado contigo. I haven't spoken with you. No he hablado contigo. Do you remember what the word for never was? Nunca. How would you say I've never spoken with you? Nunca he hablado contigo. What does comer go to? Comido. I have eaten. He comido. I have eaten here before. He comido aquí antes. I have never eaten here before. Nunca he comido aquí antes. What does bailar go to? Bailado. I have danced. He bailado. I have danced with her many times. He bailado con ella muchas veces. How would you say I have never danced with her? Nunca he bailado con ella. What does the verb encontrar go to? Encontrado. I have found. He encontrado. I found the book. He encontrado el libro. I have found it. Lo he encontrado. I haven't found it. No lo he encontrado. What does the verb ir go to? Ido. How would you say I have gone? He ido. I have gone there. He ido allí. I've gone there many times with my family. He ido allí muchas veces con mi familia. What does comprar go to? Comprado. I have bought. He comprado. I have bought it. Lo he comprado. I've bought something for you. He comprado algo para ti. What does the verb llamar go to? Llamado. I have called. He llamado. I've called my friend. He llamado a mi amigo. Did you remember to throw in the personal a? Because here we have a verb and here we have some kind of person or people. So it requires the personal a. He llamado a mi amigo. What does the verb llegar go to? Llegado. How would you say, I have arrived? He llegado. What does preparar go to? Preparado. I have prepared. He preparado. I've prepared it for you. Lo he preparado para ti. What does tomar go to? Tomado. I have taken. He tomado. I have taken it. Lo he tomado. Do you remember the word for already? Ya. Simply ya. How would you say, I've already taken it? Ya lo he tomado. Literally, already, it, I have taken. Ya lo he tomado. What does the verb rentar go to? Rentado. How would you say, I've rented the house? He rentado la casa. What does besar go to? Besado. I have kissed. He besado. I've kissed her. La he besado. It doesn't matter if this is lo or la, los, las, le, les, and so forth. All these little pronouns get thrown up front. So her, I have kissed. La he besado. How would you say, I've kissed him? Lo he besado. Of course, this could also mean I've kissed it. It just depends on the context of the conversation. Welcome to part 4. We're going to talk about irregular verbs now with this have past. First of all, we have them in English. There are a lot of irregular verbs in the past in English. Let's do like a little demonstration. Say we take the verb to walk. Well, that would then in the past go to like I have walked. It gets this ed ending. Or the verb talk. So I have talked. Right, this is kind of our regular ending. But if we took a verb like to eat, you wouldn't say I eat it. That would sound immediately wrong. Instead, it's I ate. So you can see how this verb went its own way in the past. And that's an example of an irregular verb in English, behaving in an irregular way. Or another one would be, say, to run. You wouldn't say I runned, right? It would be I ran. Or you wouldn't say with this verb to swim, you wouldn't say I swimmed, right? You would say I swam. So these are all irregulars occurring in English in the past. Now, Spanish is the same. There are a lot of irregular ones in the past that we need to watch out for because they don't conform to this ado and ido sound. They want to go their own way. So let's start off with ones that do conform that we haven't looked at yet. So we have the verb ser, and we know that er or ir verbs go to an edo sound, and indeed this one does. So for once, ser is not irregular, it's actually conforming to the rules. So this would be the past for ser goes to sido. Or if we take estar, Here we have an AR verb, and this does indeed go to ado. So both ser and estar going to estado conform to our rule of ado and ido, which is true for the vast majority of Spanish verbs. However, there are others that want to go their own way. Very common verbs too. So we could take a verb like hacer, which is to do or to make. Now, you might think that, well, that goes to ha sido, but it doesn't. It actually becomes hecho. And I'm sure you've seen on clothing and other items, hecho in Mexico, made in Mexico. So we have hecho for hacer. You can see it's not conforming to the ado or ido sounds. Another example would be, say, decir. So here we have an IR verb. This does not go to this ido sound, decido. No, it actually becomes dicho, like this. This is its past, dicho. Another one, say, would be ver. We have an ER verb here, so this does not go to bido, ido sound. Instead, it goes to visto, visto. Now, there are many more of these, so we need to be careful. And some of them we're going to have to learn just on a verb by verb basis because they're a little bit special. So let's practice a bit with this. So the verb to see is ver, and this goes to visto. So if we wanted to say I have seen, it would be he visto. He visto, I have seen. How would you say I have seen it? Lo he visto. Lo he visto. I've seen it. I haven't seen it. No lo he visto. I haven't seen her today. No la he visto hoy. Here the la is standing for her. No la he visto hoy. What about I haven't seen your book? No he visto tu libro. What's the verb to say or to tell? Decir. And decir goes to dicho. How would you say, I have said it? Lo he dicho. Lo he dicho. I have said it. I haven't said it. No lo he dicho. What's the verb to do or to make? Hacer. And this one goes to hecho. Hecho. How would you say, I've done it? Lo he hecho. So make sure that you stay aware of the fact that not all verbs conform into this ado and ido sound with the have past in Spanish. There are quite a number of verbs that go their own way and behave in an irregular way. The good news is that the vast majority of verbs in Spanish are regular and will conform to our ado and ido sound. And the second bit of good news is that it really doesn't change anything. The structure and the way that it works, the formulas remain intact. It's just that you have to remember that hacer will go to hecho, or decir would go to dicho, and so forth. That's all you have to remember. All the rest remains exactly the same. So far in this module, we've only been working with one angle, which is I have whatever in the past. Okay, but what about all the other angles? Or he has, she has, you have, they have, we have, and so forth. Well, it's actually very easy to fill in all the rest because we've done much of the heavy lifting already so far in the module. And I'm going to give it to you all on one slide. So when we're forming this have past, we already know that we have e for I have. And here's the rest. It would be has for you have, a for he, she, or it has, hemos for we have, and an for they have. So the first thing that I would like you to do now is to memorize this slide. It's a key slide, and go up and down it. So close your eyes and try to recall it. Has, a, hemos, and an. And then try to do it backwards. Han, hemos, ha, has, and he. So you want to spend just a few minutes trying to securely learn that, not looking at the slide, but kind of closing your eyes and just trying to recall it mentally. Let's go into a live demo now, and we'll take the verb, say, rentar, which in the have past is going to go to rentado. We have this ado sound, rentado. So I've rented, or I have rented, would be he rentado. So we're already very familiar with that. And you just use that key slide to fill in all the other angles. So you have rented would be has rentado. He, she, or it has rented would be ha rentado. We've rented, hemos rentado. And they've rented, han rentado. So this verb, this key slide here, this is acting as a doorway into the past, this have past. We're using this as a platform. He, has, ha, hemos, and han with that ado or either sound. So I'm going to let you try it now on your own, and we'll choose a new verb. We'll go with caminar. So caminar with the have past, what does it become? Caminado. How would you say I've walked? He caminado. You've walked. Has caminado. He, she, or it has walked. Ha caminado. We've walked. Hemos caminado. They've walked. Han caminado. Let's take another verb, salir. What does that go to? Salido. So if we wanted to say, I've gone out, how would you say that? He salido. You've gone out. Has salido. He, she, or it has gone out. Ha salido. We've gone out. Hemos salido. They've gone out. Han salido. Now, just before I leave this video, I want to address an objection that I'm sure some of you are having, like a little protest. And that is a valid question, which is, don't we already have, the verb tener? I mean, tener is the verb to have, right? And we've been working with the verb tener a lot in this course. Well, the thing is that just as Spanish has two verbs for to be, ser and estar, it also has two verbs for to have. And this conjugation, the present tense that we're working with, he, has, ha, hemos, and han, it comes from the verb haber, which means to have. But the thing is that this verb haber is almost always purely used as a doorway into the past. It's like a stepping stone that opens the past, this have past. That's how we use it. And very rarely do you see it used just on its own, like in a sentence, haber. So it's really just an auxiliary verb for the past tense. So we have this verb, let's put it in here, haber. And we're going to conjugate that in the present tense. This verb would be going to he for I, has, ha, hemos, and han. So this is the verb haber conjugated in the present tense. And we use this as a stepping stone to open the door into this have past. Let's go back up here to the slide. So this one here. So you can see we're standing on this platform and we're going into the past from here. So I'd say I have eaten, he comido. It would never be like, we would never use tener here because we're using the have past and we need this little platform to get into the have past. I have, you have, comido, and so forth down the line. We could just copy and paste it all in. Ha comido, hemos comido, han comido. You can see in each one, it's just opening the door into this have past. So if you were confused earlier why we're not using tener, this is why. In Spanish, they don't use tener in this way. They use the verb haber. In English, we can say like, I have a house. And certainly here we're used to saying tengo una casa, okay? But when it comes into the past, like I have done it, you can see in English we continue using I have. It doesn't change. I have a house or I have done it. It doesn't change. But in Spanish, it does change. So in this one, just the regular way, I have tengo una casa. Okay, but here now, we're going into this have past. The word have with the past. And so here we cannot use tener. We have to switch into this haber verb. So I have done it would be lo he hecho or whatever, but we need this new verb of haber when we're forming the have past. In part 6, I'd like to return back to the verb to have, which is tener. So this is the one that we use most of the time. But we can use this with the have past in order to form the phrase I've had to or I have had to. This would become he tenido que. Now sometimes you'll find that phrase quite useful. For example, how would you say, this isn't the first time I've had to tell him? Esta no es la primera vez que he tenido que decirle. So here we have our phrase of I've had to, he tenido que. Now building out all the other angles is easy. So we have he tenido que, has tenido que. That would be you've had to. Then he, she, or it had to. We've had to, hemos tenido que. They've had to, han tenido que. Let's use this one with hemos. How would you say, this isn't the first time that we've had to wait for her? Esta no es la primera vez que hemos tenido que esperarla. Notice here that I simply hooked on the pronoun to the end of the verb esperar. So in English, we obviously have wait for her. But the reason that we don't need por or para with Spanish is because while esperar can mean to wait, in Spanish they actually see it as meaning to await. So what you are literally saying is to await her. This is why there's no need for por or para, because the word for simply isn't considered here in Spanish. So you would have esperarla, to await her, or to wait for her, and the same for to wait for him or to await him, esperarlo. So it's a good thing to remember with esperar that Spanish sees the verb in this way, to await someone. Let's try another example. This again will be with the they've had to. So han tenido que. How would you say, this is the second time they've had to call you? Esta es la segunda vez que han tenido que llamarte. And let's try one more. I've always had to be the adult in this relationship. Siempre he tenido que ser el adulto en esta relación. So here we have, I've always had to be, siempre he tenido que ser el adulto, because this is describing our identity, right? How we are being seen in the relationship. We're the one taking the higher ground, being the adult in the relationship. And of course, you can see again this phrase of I've had to being used in a very natural way in everyday speech. Now, another one that's good to know would be I've wanted to. For example, I've always wanted to do that. Now, of course, the verb to want is querer. And for wanted, querer will behave just like any other regular verb and go to querido. So I've wanted to, he querido. Let's use it. I've always wanted to do that. Siempre he querido hacer eso. So I've always wanted, siempre he querido, to do that, hacer eso. Now, here's a good question for you. Some of you will get this right, some of you won't. How would you say, or how would you ask, have you always wanted to be a doctor? ¿Siempre has querido ser doctor? There are two things here. Notice that for the question, we are using the same format. So this could equally be you've always wanted to be a doctor, just without the question marks and said as a statement. But we're asking this as a question, have you always wanted to be? So again, in Spanish, you keep the same structure and you just use the intonation of your voice to indicate that now this is a question. So let's demonstrate this again in real time. So we'll get rid of the question marks. Now we have a statement. Siempre has querido ser doctor. You've always wanted to be a doctor. Notice ser again because this profession belongs to their identity. Now, reversing it around, have you always wanted to be a doctor? We don't do anything to Spanish structure. We simply use the intonation of our voice. Siempre has querido ser doctor? Notice as well that I changed angles here from he querido to has querido. So the same thing as with he tenido que, I've always had to. Again, this is working in the same way. Just by changing the auxiliary verb, we get all the different angles. So he querido, I've wanted. Has querido, you've wanted. Ha querido, he, she, or it has wanted. Then we have hemos querido for we've wanted or we have wanted. And of course, they've wanted, han querido. So we're just changing the angle of this auxiliary verb haber to get all the rest. Let's try another sentence. How would you say, she's wanted to meet you for a long time? Ha querido conocerte por mucho tiempo. We've always wanted to go there. Siempre hemos querido ir allí. They've wanted to tell you the truth about what happened for a long time. Han querido decirte la verdad sobre lo que pasó por mucho tiempo. To finish off, run a little drill where we will mix and match different verbs using this have past. How would you say they've already gone out? Ya han salido. I haven't spoken with her yet. No he hablado con ella todavía. Have you eaten? ¿Has comido? We still haven't found it. Todavía no lo hemos encontrado. I haven't seen them. No los he visto. Why haven't you done it yet? ¿Por qué no lo has hecho todavía? This is the second time we've had to help her. Esta es la segunda vez que hemos tenido que ayudarla. I've always wanted a house like that. Siempre he querido una casa así. They haven't said anything to me. No me han dicho nada. They've all gone to see what happened. Todos han ido a ver qué pasó. We've already bought one. Ya hemos comprado uno. She still hasn't given it to me. Todavía no me lo ha dado. I've tried to call her many times. He tratado de llamarle muchas veces. It hasn't arrived yet. no ha llegado todavía. I haven't had enough time to prepare it. No he tenido suficiente tiempo para prepararlo. Have you paid it yet? ¿Lo has pagado todavía? I haven't used it. No lo he usado. I think he's suffered enough. Creo que has sufrido bastante. I think we've waited enough. Creo que hemos esperado bastante. It still hasn't finished. Todavía no ha terminado. She hasn't accepted the truth. No ha aceptado la verdad. Why haven't you visited him? ¿Por qué no lo has visitado? You've explained it very well. Lo has explicado muy bien. They haven't confirmed anything with me yet. No han confirmado nada conmigo todavía. Have you thought about asking her? ¿Has pensado en preguntarle?